Hello, New Hope Baptist Church family. This is Pastor Malin Smith, and I wanted to speak to you today about a meeting that we recently had regarding how we're going to go about opening up New Hope Baptist Church, the building. As we met last night, which would have been Tuesday, May 26th, we talked about a number of issues, and I brought forth a proposal that I wanted to go over with you. And the proposal states that we would open the church in a series of 4 stages. Stage 1 would be having to do with Sunday services and limited Sunday school. Stage 2, dealing with Wednesday activities and limited office hours. Stage 3 would have to do with limited children's ministry. And Stage 4 would deal with possible further children's ministry and increased seating. Now, with regards to Stage 1, we right now, if there are ministries that are less than 10 people in number, they're more than welcome to use the building. So ministries such as Dorcas, my wife Debbie, she offers free counseling. Ministries such as those can use the building as long as social distancing protocols are exercised and as long as it's less than 10 people. So that's one of the things that I had mentioned in the meeting last night. At the heart of this proposal is, of course, the opening date. And so this is what I had proposed, namely that by June 14th, the end of June, or whenever the 10-person restriction is lifted, whichever comes first. Our governor had reiterated the 10-person limit on non-essential buildings on May 15th. And so that's really what is currently right now delaying our opening. And so if that restriction is lifted within the next week or so, we would look to reopen on June the 14th. If the restriction would go past that date, we would hopefully aim for the end of June. And then if the restriction is not lifted by then we would open the building once that restriction is lifted. So everyone that was present at the meeting last night all agreed on those parameters. We also talked about how we're going to handle the issue of masks. And so as we talked about this amongst ourselves, we decided that we're not going to mandate that people wear masks. Instead, we're going to recommend that they do so. And so we're going to have these recommendations either in the form of signs or where I would make a statement from the pulpit during services. So that's one thing that we had talked about. We will also have some masks on hand as well as some hand sanitizing stations. And that way we're doing our part in ensuring the safety of everyone that comes to the church. Now in this first stage, we would have the office having limited hours or limited days. And then, of course, we would have Sunday school, but it would, in most cases, have to do with the adults. And at that, there would be a combined Zoom as well as physical meeting. In stage 2, that's when we would then bring back Wednesday night activities as well as having the office then being opened up full time. So again, each of these stages, they're separated by a couple of weeks. And then stage 3, that's when we would then begin to offer limited children's ministry, mainly during Sunday school or on Sunday morning. So as long as the COVID situation is under control, as long as the pandemic and the infection rate is under control, we would then open up the possibility of doing limited children's ministry. One of the ideas that we had discussed was possibly temporarily relocating the children's wing to the other side of the building. And that way, that would lessen crowd density because, whenever you read any of the articles coming out about COVID-19, wherever there is increased crowd density, that's where the disease tends to spread. And so, as we open up the church, that's one thing that we're going to be trying to do as we think about the safety of everyone. And then in the final stage, that's when the children's ministry would be increased more. And then in our sanctuary, which we've currently reconfigured to be in line with all the social distancing protocols, we would increase seating. So currently, our sanctuary, what we've done, we have made every other row, we're going to be blocking off every other row, and then the rows in which people would sit, they're going to be in clusters of 3 or 4. So those are some of the measures that we've already undertaken. And so we would look to increase the seating capacity as all of the social distancing protocols are relaxed. And we hope that that would happen sooner rather than later. So I just wanted to share some of those thoughts with you. Just wanted to update you on where we're at in terms of reopening. And let me just share with you a passage of Scripture from Romans chapter 13, because as we think about how we relate to one another while we're still separated from one another, as well as how we're going to relate to one another whenever we come back together, Romans 13 gives us some wonderful instructions. And let me just read to you one verse. Romans 13, verse 8. Owe nothing to anyone except to love one another, for he who loves his neighbor has fulfilled the law. And the Apostle Paul there in Romans 13:8, he reiterates what Jesus says in John 13, verses 34 and 35, namely that we're to love one another. And this is how the world will know that what we proclaim is true, by our love for one another. And so that's what I want us to encourage to do as we think about how we're going to approach our reopening. Please pray that God would guide us and lead us, and we'll keep in communication with you. We're going to continue to pray for you. If you have any questions, please feel free to call either myself or the staff, and we'll be more than glad to speak with you. And so may God bless you, and do know we're praying for you and that we miss you.